Wow. Shit. Oh. Thank you, Sarah. My dear friend, thank you for inviting me here, and thank you all for coming. This has just been a wonderful couple of days here. I'm very honored and grateful to be a part of this event, this inaugural event of this festival here. Here's some water. I'm going to drink it. I don't know if it's for me, but I'm going to. I took the one on the left, so just so you know. Okay, I'm going to read some poems from Anne So, this most recent book. This first one's called A Report to an Academy. Kafka has a story called A Report to an Academy. It's a sort of academic discourse, and then at some point you realize it's being delivered by a gorilla, and that comes up. A report to an academy. And so, among the starry refineries and cattail ditches of New Jersey, his bus dips from egg-white sky into shadow. When he next looks up from Kafka, a blur of green sanatorium tile flows by, then presto, Port Authority, full daylight. He has been cheated of the river, dawn, a considered fingering of his long and polished rosary of second thoughts. Is it any wonder children are born weeping? Out to 8th Avenue to walk 20 blocks home to her sleeping curve beneath a sheet. He cracks 3 eggs into a bowl and says to each, "Oh, you got trouble?" The yellow yolk is his, the orange is hers, the third simply glistens, non-committal. Except to mention Kafka's restlessness before his death, his trips from spa to country house to sanatorium, and that she's awake now, sweet with sleep sweat, patting her belly's taut carapace, and yes, hungry as an ape, but first a kiss, mister. How was your trip, and what have you brought us? And that the knowledge that dooms a marriage is the knowledge prerequisite to marriage. The poem has nothing further to report. Most of the poems in this book are about a couple that's fallen on hard times and is falling apart in a variety of ways, so it's just going to get more and more cheerful. Just so you know. This one's called The Weakness. She leaned back against a paper birch and opened her pants. He knelt down and slid them to her ankles. The bunched knot of denim and spring wind inhibited, then didn't. She guided him with firm calm, an author arranging her characters' fates, and soon the feather ran up inside her, and she said so softly and touched his slick cheek. This meant they should return to work, peeling wet leaves from the cold soil in search of the morels they knew must be near, given the elm, old apple orchard, and the map from last year, hand-drawn in the road atlas. Let no one suggest they lacked directions. In Anna Karenina at Levin's country house, Koznishev asks Ferenka to go mushroom hunting. She wears a white kerchief over her black hair. He lights a cigar and feigns nonchalance. The others stay behind, making raspberry jam, suspecting and hoping Koznishev intends to propose. Who could doubt the wisdom of such a match? She is kind and pious, he is kind and intellectual, but Levin doubts it will work because Ferenka is too religious and Koznishev too cerebral. Levin says they have none of the weakness necessary for love, meaning that they lack the baser instincts of which the mushrooms are symbols. Or so says the literature professor. But isn't interpretation heresy, or even a toxin? What can be said for certain? In the woods, Kosnichev rehearses the arguments for and against marriage. He stops Varenka beside a hazel bush and kneels as if to pick a mushroom. Her heart turns to feathers. He asks for her guidance. How can one tell the white boletus from the birch tree type? And as soon as those words were spoken, both he and she understood that all was over, and that what ought to have been said would not be said, and their excitement, having reached its climax, began to subside. Things are themselves, and so must be checked against the field guide to avoid poisoning. She emptied the paper bag of withered penises onto the countertop and weighed each in her palm as she would a withered penis. Twilight built up around the house like a house. He felt distracted and sick. He brushed the onions he chopped into the trash and dropped their skins into the salad bowl. She said this could be a symptom. His hands weren't his. The votives and textbooks on her dresser struck him first as symbols and then as conflicting instructions. He thought if he could follow them, he would be fine. Okay. This one's called A Courtship. Anglo-Saxon accentual verse for you poetry nerds in the crowd. A courtship. She tried to take her husbandry seriously. He liked to loiter at the orchard's edge. She bought chemicals to kill the brambles. He masturbated while she put up marmalade. Dense and aglow, dark gold, while she cinched his tiny bridle tighter, demanding please additional attempts to test her hollows and his motility meds. Wishing for a mustache or manly accessory is to hobbled courtship wholly free. Of pleasure as why canter when you can. Walk is to blank that face looking back. From a snapshot soaked in gutter snowmelt, she could already taste the fresh fruit of her turn to freak on a camping trip. His to look back and harden to salt. In her hot hand with hips to sink deeper into his script than she could direct. After his precious gallop and jam, when had he grown so withered and dulled? The man who back in that kitchen had bent her just so she would smell his sweet, bad peaches in a chipped bowl, and said so, but he would not stop, or soften, or slacken, but dug and deepened, bruised windfalls into bitter preserves. Later, crying over scented candles, made her shiver in the slanted attic, colder than the books he brought to her cluttered desk like a ditch. Of say fruit, but say so overlooking the ride home from the hospital after. She jerked the sloppy jockey off her, dropped reins slack and dragged in mud, handing out carrots and candy cigars, in the hall proving only himself incapable of cracking an egg after all. Those frozen nights aglow with porn, workers in the orchard, numbered 1, baby in the brambles, rank and canceled. You can't say I didn't warn you. This one's called Focus. Photograph found in the road. Bejeweled hand gripping a limp dick. All parties suffering from lack of ambition. The hills of Tuscany won't dapple with sunlight, and here it is, nearly noon. She didn't much want the leather jacket. The vendor didn't really care to sell it. She hardly tried it on. He barely praised her beauty. Then everyone wasn't hungry and went to lunch. The rubies won't glow. The delayed train shrugs on its siding. The penis appears at ease. Osteria, 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 osteria. I knew many words, but preferred to say the same ones over and over, like a photographer shooting 4 frames of the same subject, hoping for one in focus, this clearly among the other 3. This one's called Lions Are Interesting. Each morning in the little white cabin by the river, they woke to a raccoon clawing under the floorboards or banging in the wood stove. They did not discuss this. Instead, they said it was a perfect day to pick blueberries on the hill, or that a hike to the old glassworks sounded good. They were beginning to speak not in meat, but in the brown paper the butcher wraps around it. Brown paper around dirty magazines. Like dirty magazines, they only trace the contour of substance. Silk over skin, skin over muscle, muscle over bone. What's under bone? Marrow? Their forks so small and dull, as if for dolls. You can tell dolls from animals because the latter are made of meat. Many eat it also. Lions are interesting. Lions don't eat the flesh of their kills right away, but first lap up the blood until the meat is blanched nearly white, white as the little cabin by the river they stayed in that summer, white as the raccoon covered in ashes, its black eyes bottomless and bright with hate. Okay, one more from this book, and then just a few new poems. This one's called For All We Know Delicious. And it has a couple of lines in the middle that are from a poem by Bertolt Brecht. It's this great poem by Brecht where there's these poor farmers, and it's winter time, and they're freezing to death, and they're running out of wood. I know it's my sort of, I think it's fun. They're like freezing to death, and they're running out of wood, and so they say, I know, let's throw our coats on the fire. Yeah, and that's Brecht for you. He's a real laugh a minute. Okay, For All We Know Delicious. The guidebooks to China on his nightstand festooned with prayer flags of color-coded post-its, lime, lemon, orange. A careful planner even for his unlikeliest fantasies, as if each would bestow its fortune on the most organized petitioner. Vibrator in the top drawer, fresh batteries below. She preferred sleep, ruin. Sudden ungovernable leaks from the body, and the body's slow repairs. Mice in the flower bin, as sweet white and plump as marshmallows, fruit over or underripe, call without response, aimless walks along the ice-calloused shore of the frozen lake where ducks caroused in the power plant's hot effluent. No, not diluted, he insisted, but Dionysian, like the poor farmers in Brecht's poem who throw their coats on the failing fire. Come in, dear wind, and be our guest. You too have neither home nor rest. Again he slackened inside her. Again he proffered the reasonable facsimile. The fact that her dreams of crushing mice under her boot could make her weep proved representations of passion were interchangeable with passion. She wondered if it was important to him the thing be Caucasian. She'd have preferred a color and shape more like the lights that either appeared to flash behind her eyes in ecstasy or for all she knew actually did. Lime, lemon, orange. In China, poor fishermen knot rope around the cormorant's throat so it can't swallow the big fish it catches and instead brings them back to the boat. The bird lives on minnows. Minnows are still fish, he said, and sufficient, for all we know, delicious.